The dust has barely settled over Gaza's shattered streets, yet the thunder of war drums echoes once more. After months of relentless aerial bombardment, Israeli forces are pushing deeper into territories they've never touched before. The question haunting every analyst, every strategist, every humanitarian watching this unfold is simple yet profound. Why now? Why another invasion when the first waves already devastated so much? Before we dive deep into the tactics, the tunnels, and the truth behind this conflict, make sure you're subscribed to IntelX. We break down the most complex military operations on the planet, giving you insights you won't find anywhere else. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss our deep dive analyses. Israeli military commanders have ordered a renewed surge of ground operations across Gaza, with laser focus on central territories like Deir al-Balah. This isn't a continuation of previous campaigns. This is a calculated expansion into areas that, until now, have remained largely beyond the reach of boots on the ground. The Israeli Defense Forces articulate their mission with clinical precision: dismantle every remaining fragment of Hamas's military apparatus. Their strategy targets zones where their soldiers have yet to establish dominance, seeking to eliminate what they describe as residual operational capabilities that threaten to regenerate if left unchecked. But there's more beneath the surface. This isn't merely about destruction, it's about territorial consolidation. Deir al-Balah, once considered too sensitive to breach, now finds itself in the crosshairs as the IDF pushes to cement a commanding presence across central Gaza's landscape. The shadow of hostages has loomed large over every strategic decision. Early in the conflict, Israeli forces deliberately avoided penetrating certain neighborhoods. Intelligence suggested captives were being held in these very locations, and the risk of their lives weighed heavily against military objectives. But the calculus has shifted dramatically. With ceasefire negotiations frozen in deadlock and diplomatic channels yielding nothing but silence, Israel has recalibrated its approach, betting that intensified military pressure might shatter the stalemate. Israeli security officials frame this escalation as existential necessity. They argue that allowing any combat infrastructure or trained fighters to survive intact would be tantamount to strategic suicide. In their assessment, any breathing room granted to Hamas translates directly into reconstituted capabilities and renewed threats to Israeli civilians in the months and years ahead. The numbers tell a story of incomprehensible tragedy. As of July 2025, reports indicate that no fewer than 58,195 Palestinian lives have been extinguished, with some assessments suggesting casualties exceeding 62,000 when accounting for both direct violence and indirect consequences of war. On the Israeli side, approximately 1,139 individuals, predominantly civilians including women and children, perished during and immediately following the October 7th attacks. Initial casualty figures were higher but underwent revision as identification processes continued. Here's where the narrative becomes truly perplexing. After months of devastating bombardment following October 7th, the objective seemed crystal clear: exact retribution and obliterate the militant organization. Yet despite the overwhelming force deployed, despite the systematic destruction of infrastructure, Hamas continues to engage Israeli forces. How? The answer lies in radical transformation. The militant organization has abandoned conventional military doctrine entirely, morphing into something far more elusive. With senior commanders eliminated and command facilities reduced to rubble, Hamas has adopted a cellular structure built on autonomous units operating independently of central coordination. These compartmentalized cells present an almost impossible challenge for conventional military forces. They're designed to be virtually undetectable, capable of striking from unexpected angles and vanishing before counterstrikes can be organized. It's guerrilla warfare refined for urban devastation, optimized for survival against overwhelming odds. The tactical playbook has evolved dramatically. Ambushes orchestrated from hidden positions, sniper fire from collapsed buildings, improvised explosive devices planted along patrol routes. Hit-and-run raids executed with surgical precision. These fighters no longer seek pitched battles against Israel's technologically superior military. Instead, they exploit Gaza's densely packed urban terrain, emerging from the shadows to strike before melting back into the civilian landscape. This decentralized command structure serves a dual purpose: operational continuity and leadership redundancy. Even when senior figures are eliminated, the network continues functioning across multiple fronts, adapting and persisting without centralized direction. Perhaps most remarkable is Hamas's improvisation under impossible constraints. With weapons man, Manufacturing facilities largely destroyed, fighters have turned scavengers, salvaging components from damaged tunnel networks and bombed-out workshops. This salvaged material has enabled limited production to resume. They're manufacturing rockets again, anti-tank missiles like the Kornet, Qassam rockets, improvised explosive devices that we'll examine in detail shortly. There's bitter irony in their resourcefulness. Unexploded Israeli munitions are frequently repurposed, converted into makeshift explosives for IED construction. Even under Israeli military occupation, short-range rockets continue launching from within Gaza, designed less for strategic effect than psychological impact, maintaining an aura of defiance and unpredictability. The tunnel network remains Hamas's most formidable strategic asset. Israeli forces claim to have destroyed up to 85% of the tunnels in critical zones like Rafah and Khan Yunis, yet hundreds of miles of underground passages remain operational. These subterranean arteries serve multiple critical functions: personnel movement, weapons caching, and ambush staging points. The tunnels enable the hit-and-run tactics that define current combat dynamics: sniper fire from unexpected angles, anti-tank missile launches that seem to materialize from nowhere, all executed with relative safety from retaliation, then disappearing back into the earth before Israeli forces can respond effectively. Guerrilla doctrine now dominates the battlefield entirely. Hamas systematically avoids direct confrontations where Israel's technological and numerical superiority would prove decisive. Instead, they rely on ambushes, improvised explosives, and precisely targeted strikes against military vehicles, inflicting damage while minimizing their own exposure to return fire. In this analysis, we're examining two contrasting military doctrines in collision: Israel's asymmetrical battlefield tactics versus Hamas's guerrilla warfare strategy. Consider a scenario. How does the IDF respond to a sudden ambush? Soldiers rapidly dismount from their Namer infantry fighting vehicle, immediately laying down suppressive fire while deploying smoke screens to obscure their movement patterns. Gunners positioned outside the immediate danger zone work to identify hostile firing positions, delivering precise suppressive fire to support assault elements advancing on the objective. Meanwhile, Hamas employs tunnel-based tactics specifically designed to exploit vehicular vulnerabilities. They target the Merkava's weaker rear armor, focusing particularly on the infantry access doors. This rear section lacks the heavy fortification present on frontal and side surfaces, making it the vehicle's Achilles heel in close-quarters urban combat. Stay with me because we're about to break down the distinct operational phases each side employs, stage by stage. Israel confronts an asymmetrical battlefield environment where traditional military advantages are blunted by urban complexity. Initially, the IDF deploys multiple drone platforms to conduct comprehensive battlefield surveillance for approximately 1 week. These unmanned systems identify potential targets for precision airstrikes, subsequently executed by F-16 fighter jets employing JDAM munitions, Joint Direct Attack munitions, typically laser-guided to incapacitate or eliminate suspected infrastructure with minimal collateral exposure. Following aerial preparation, the IDF introduces specialized forces into Gaza's interior. These special operations units function as forward observers, maintaining constant communication with fire control and command centers. These elite soldiers establish precise targeting coordinates essential for guiding self-propelled artillery or directing indirect fire missions. This includes deployment of Iron Sting precision-guided artillery shells and missiles mounted on tracked chassis. Let me walk you through the mechanics. A soldier inputs exact longitude coordinates and loads the Iron Sting round into the launch tube. Upon firing, detonators activate on contact with the firing pin, igniting the propellant charge. Additional charges translate directly to increased range as propellant drives the projectile forward, guided by fins and control surfaces towards stationary targets like fortified bunkers. The forward fuse activates the warhead, penetrating concrete layers before detonating inside reinforced structures in delayed detonation mode. This represents the most hazardous phase, requiring conventional infantry deployment via Namer infantry fighting vehicles. These IFVs transport approximately 8 fully equipped soldiers designed on the Merkava Mark IV chassis, incorporating concepts from the Merkava Mark IV. In typical operations, a Merkava main battle tank assumes the lead position, while Namers transport infantry elements behind. Understanding ambush response protocols is critical. When a mounted squad encounters a near ambush, actions depend entirely on distance from hostile forces at engagement initiation. Step 1. Gunners within the kill zone immediately return fire and activate vehicle smoke systems while maneuvering out of the danger area. Step 2. Soldiers in disabled vehicles within the kill zone deploy smoke for concealment, dismount if possible, seek cover positions, and return suppressive fire. Step 3. Soldiers within the kill zone execute an immediate assault toward enemy positions, engaging hostiles firing from structures. Gunners and soldiers positioned outside the kill zone identify enemy locations, deliver accurate suppressive fire, and support assault elements. Step 4. The unit commander requests and adjusts indirect fire support, calls for close air support following established procedures, reports contact to higher command, conducts consolidation and reorganization, then continues the mission. With traditional smuggling corridors through Egypt severely compromised, Hamas has become increasingly dependent on Iranian technical expertise and weapon designs to maintain local production of drones and rockets. Even amid active warfare, Hamas maintains governance functions by controlling humanitarian aid distribution. By diverting portions of food resources to its own forces, the organization secures loyalty among fighters while positioning itself as a stabilizing authority. Strategical. Hamas has entered what military analysts term a survival phase. With most long-range rocket stockpiles depleted, focus has shifted towards short-range attacks and psychological operations. Intermittent rocket fire near border regions designed more for morale impact than strategic effect. Still, significant challenges mount. The near exhaustion of advanced weaponry has forced reliance on increasingly crude armaments. Meanwhile, discontent grows among Gaza's civilian population, caught between militant operations and Israeli military responses. Let's examine how Hamas manufactures rudimentary rockets from common materials. The ingredients are disturbingly accessible: sugar and potassium nitrate, the latter readily obtained as agricultural fertilizer. The process begins by melting sugar, incorporating the fertilizer oxidizer, then pouring the mixture into molds to form properly sized propellant slugs. These solidified propellants are inserted into cylindrical tubes forming the rocket body, typically fabricated from locally available water pipes. Why sugar? Sugar stores substantial chemical energy but releases it slowly during combustion. The fertilizer functions as an oxidizing agent, supplying oxygen that dramatically accelerates energy release. When proportions are correctly balanced, the mixture burns rapidly enough to generate propulsive force without detonating explosively. Launch systems are remarkably simple. Steel frames enable quick deployment and rapid removal. A wire connected to a battery ignites the solid propellant, which burns briefly, propelling the rocket skyward. Following propellant burnout, the rocket follows a predictable ballistic trajectory. The fuse triggers the warhead, a mixture of potassium nitrate and sugar, creating an explosion dispersing shrapnel across the impact zone. Hamas's tunnel network spans hundreds of miles with multiple vertical levels stacked above one another, enabling rapid hit-and-run operations. Let's walk through how this strategy unfolds in practice. Imagine a Merkava tank as the target. Militants emerge from concealed tunnel exits carrying anti-tank RPGs. The Merkava features the Trophy Active Protection System, which uses radar to detect and classify incoming projectiles. When threats are confirmed, countermeasures engage to neutralize them before impact. However, the system has exploitable weaknesses. Reports indicate Hamas fighters launch al-Yasin RPGs at extremely close range, limiting Trophy's radar reaction time and reducing system effectiveness. Additionally, they specifically target rear armor, the infantry access doors, which is substantially less fortified than frontal and side armor. An alternative tactic involves striking tanks with RPGs just below the turret ring to disable the vehicle or render it immobile, even if not achieving catastrophic key. While the tunnel network comprises an estimated 1,300 separate passages spanning approximately 500 kilometers, roughly 310 miles total. Some tunnels reach depths of 70 meters, approximately 230 feet underground. Most passages measure only 2 meters in height and width, creating claustrophobic conditions but effective concealment. Hamas employs multiple vertical layers, creating what intelligence analysts call a metro system. Entrances are typically hidden within city buildings. Level 1 houses entrances and Qassam rocket launch positions. Level 2 features reinforced tunnels utilizing concrete blocks with arched construction supporting the structure against collapse. Level 3 addresses the oxygen requirements of deep tunnels. Air ventilation systems and oxygen generators transfer fresh air from surface level, distributing it throughout the different depths. Level 4 serves as meeting rooms and sleeping quarters where fighters rest and plan operations. Level 5 contains additional reinforced tunneling designed to support infrastructure both below and laterally, preventing cascade failures. Electrical lighting and ventilation piping run throughout the tunnel base infrastructure, maintaining operational capability. Level 6 is strategically positioned as weapons storage, isolated to prevent chain reactions in the event of accidental detonation. Level 7 houses explosive material storage, fuel, petrol, diesel, deliberately placed deep with sealed doors. At these depths, oxygen levels are minimal, creating conditions where accidental ignition cannot sustain combustion since fire requires oxygen. Level 8 contains the most critical facility, the Command and Control Center. Landline telephones connect all tunnel levels. Crucially, Hamas avoids internet connectivity entirely, relying exclusively on offline communications to prevent electronic surveillance and hacking. This is the reality of modern asymmetric warfare. Two military doctrines locked in a brutal chess match played out in rubble and tunnels, with civilian lives hanging in the balance. The question isn't just who will prevail, but at what cost to humanity itself. If you found this analysis valuable, make sure you're subscribed to IntelX for more deep dives into military strategy, geopolitics, and the conflicts shaping our world. Check out our other videos on anti-aircraft weapons like the M2 Browning and the Zu-23, where we break down exactly how these systems operate in combat. Until next time, stay informed, stay critical, and stay subscribed to IntelX.